Welcome back, everyone. This is Dusty Circuit here, and here I am to bring you yet another episode of this series about the history of all my builds on Autcraft. And kind of picking up where we left off, and of course, I guess starting a couple of videos ago, we talked about uh, a base that I have built, or at least I started this base, but then later on Mod Killer and Ninjago joined in. And of course at first it was just I wanted to get away from the lag of at the fourth base because I was still on my old computer at the time, and then of course the lag I was just constantly having lag spikes and stuttering in that amplified terrain. And then of course he moved to that like a plains and savanna area where of course we started that base, but then it ironically turned into one of the laggiest bases we've ever done on the server. Well, of course mostly with that big auto sorter and possibly even the farms and the villager trading hall, but that base no longer lags the server once the sorter was removed. And that was kind of during a time when just I suddenly got a lot of free time on Autcraft due to me graduating from high school, and just kind of one of the things I would do and it's just I ended up spending more time on Autcraft, and just I often spent several hours a day playing on Autcraft, and something I would do to keep me busy is just sink hours, days, weeks, of even months in some cases of time into just builds that not very many players would do, but of course I was capable of doing, and just to kind of keep me busy. And most of the times it was to fulfill a certain need, and sometimes it was just let's just build something big and crazy because it's fun, and also to show off to all the other players. And at this point, I was basically set on doing redstone projects for my life on Autcraft, and then basically like I was all in on farms and auto sorters, and in fact I was planning on putting auto sorters in like almost all of my bases, but of course I only ended up doing that in three of my 7 bases so far. And it's just I kind of saw like the use of auto sorting in bases as it's just kind of it's like a sort of technological progress in a way, but like in game. Like, of course, before hoppers were even added to the game, we had to do sorting manually just in chests. And of course, farms back then were basically you had to like have a water stream that would dump items onto a location where you could pick them up, and also some farms would even have a feature that would let you dump the items into lava so that the items don't build up to the point of causing lag. And of course hoppers came and changed that, and now you could collect items automatically into chests, and of course in that same update, we also got comparators, which hoppers and comparators together can make auto sorting. And then as soon as I learned how to build auto sorters, especially on a large scale, I basically kind of went all in on auto sorting in a few of my bases. But the only problem being is on a multiplayer server, like 3,000 hoppers in a multiplayer server don't particularly get along very well, and in some cases, when it just literally just from being in that area, loading up the auto sorter, especially in times when the server was very there was a lot of players on the server, TPS went pretty low, and let's say staff wasn't too happy about that. And of course, that eventually led to their removal of most of the hoppers in that base. And this is kind of at the time that kind of led to the abandonment of that base. And this is a thing, of course, sadly, this is a theme that's been occurring not just with me, but with a lot of other players that had much kind of this similar play style to me. And in fact, a few years ago, there was a new rule implemented where you're not allowed to use more than 50 hoppers in a build, and that's, and at least for right now, that's defined as within like you can't have more than 50 hoppers within render distance, but builds that are outside of render distance but on the same protection, that rule doesn't apply. But I mean, of course it could change in the future, but at least one of our great staff members defined it like that. When the whole problems with the auto sorter hit, and of course AF and some of the other staff were really getting on our case about the number of hoppers and redstone we had in that base. And then when it eventually came to, we had to remove all the hoppers from the auto sorter, we had decided to, of course, this wasn't just me, this was me and those. Modkiller originally suggested this, and I went through with it because I said we were gonna go through with it because at the time I just was in need of something to replace this space, and I mean we could have kept going with that base and kind of revamped it into something different, but at the time Modkiller decided that it was about time that we would just move on and then build something else, something different, of a different build style and a different, and also just like of a different kind of goal, and rather to cram as much redstone into it we can, we instead went for what's the coolest build we could do that is possibly that for one thing is unique and original, and is also one of the biggest things we can build to, or just one of the best ways we could leave our mark on Autcraft without going into the same problems that we ran into with that fifth base and the second base that we talked about earlier in the series, and also some of the projects I did in the fourth base, although they never became as big of a problem as the fifth base had become. Shall I unveil to you once it loads in? Station X, or at least that's the name that we kind of called it, or at least I think me and Modkiller settled on this name. In fact, this particular build got so much publicity on Autcraft as that it went as far as to become featured in one of Autism Father's live streams, the April 2nd live streams he does in honor of Autism Awareness Day. And in fact, that was also at a time when DocM77 had visited the Autcraft server. And on that live stream, he like AF and DocM teleported to this build and kind of just basically showed it off in the live stream, which was just really quite something to me, and especially to have a build featured on the live stream of the server owner. It's definitely a pretty big achievement.
Oh wow, okay, I'm getting some inspiration
here. See, you'll be loading up Minecraft after this.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to see inspiration? Okay, I try not to do this because every single person on the server is going to be saying, can you get DocM to come here? Can you get DocM to come here? But there is one base you should take a look at.
Okay.
And it's Modkiller's base. Is he there right now? I think he's there right now. No, he's not there. Modkiller, go to your base. I showed it earlier in the stream only because 3 guys worked on it and they did it in, I don't know, maybe a month or so, and it's just it's so ridiculous that okay. I can't show you from here. Maybe you go up. Andre Awesome donated $3. Love everything you were doing. Keep up the amazing work. Andre Awesome. Thank you very much for your donation. You guys are way too kind. Okay, let's start at the top. Okay. I gotta give you the full meal deal here.
All right.
Because if you want to be inspired,
ooh,
we are in the end right now.
Yeah.
So take a look at what you're looking at right here.
Wow.
And keep facing it, okay? And then back up until you're outside of the wall. The perimeter. Okay. It's the perimeter. Think of it as the perimeter.
Yeah.
And then don't fall or anything, but press shift so you go down.
Yeah.
And just slowly fly yourself down.
Ooh. Man. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. See what I'm saying here?
This is amazing. Yep. Wow, this is a great job. Oh, wow, yeah, that looks totally cool. Oh, wow.
I'm not saying these guys are totally insane, but they are
close to
totally insane. Yes.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful design.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I have to bring everybody here. Like I said, I don't usually because I sets a bad precedent where everybody wants me to be teleporting everybody all around the server to look at stuff, but
yeah,
this is a pretty good showpiece.
Oh yeah, that is very nicely done. Oh man, and there's a little small thing on the outside here too.
Yeah.
Wow, very creative. Nice color palette as well.
Yeah.
Look very majestic and smooth.
Yeah, it all transitions from
Oh
layer to
man.
layer nicely, and it's
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Oh man, and this you have these cool walkways all the way out here. Wow. Okay, and you have slime launchers here to get yourself stuck in
I guess, yeah.
the cobweb.
Well, for your elytra, right? You jump up, and
Yeah.
then you got your wings activated, and you fly away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Yep. That is pretty amazing. Yep, people do cool and crazy stuff in Minecraft.
Oh man, it's for a blocky 16-bit looking game.
Yeah. The tower in the middle is also extremely beautiful.
Yeah, right? Like you
Very
look
well done. Yeah.
I teleport somebody to the base and they look at this and they go, "Yeah, this is pretty amazing." And then you back up and it's like, "Wow."
Yeah. Then with the beams going all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
That is so cool. I'm gonna fall through all the way.
No, there's glass there, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then underneath that, it does go
Nice.
all the way.
I mean, look at all these quartz they've been using. I mean, that is a
All in survival.
insane mining effort to get all this quartz.
Yep.
Don't even want to look at the nether. It probably looks like Swiss cheese.
Well, I mean, we have just shy of 8,000 names on the whitelist.
Yeah.
So I had to get pretty creative. So now we have resource worlds that get reset every month.
Yeah.
They actually just reset yesterday, and that includes Nether and the End, because otherwise nobody would ever get Elytra.
Yeah. Oh wow.
So there's
That
build.
is so
There's a
cool.
build end, which we are in, which is this base.
Yeah.
And then there's a resource end, which gets reset.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful. You stack. Yes. Good builders for sure. Yeah.
This is definitely one of the showpieces, but I could show you so many bases on this server that, you know, just blow you away. And, you know, and again, it goes back to all those annoying bullies who think that autistics aren't worth anything and can't do anything. And I'm like, are you serious? Come and visit me on the server for 5 minutes, and I will totally blow that misconception right out of the water.
Yeah, there's people who say that are just stupid. Period.
Yep.
Come on. I mean, yeah.
And kind of as for the history of this particular build, unfortunately, I cannot really, at least a certain part of it, I'm unfortunately unable to go into, as it would break the rule on Autcraft as for advertising other servers. But me and Modkiller have gotten inspiration from this build from, of course, it's a particular Minecraft server that was very popular on YouTube, and in fact, one of Modkiller's YouTubers that he watches was on there. But anyway, it was a build there that was actually, of course, it was also built in the end, and of course, when Modkiller saw it, he at the time thought it would be a cool idea for us to take our inspiration from that. And at the time I was really kind of floored to move on with this project, because I was still just disappointed about how that other base went out for me, and this was just another chance for us to do something amazing. And in any way, kind of for that reason, I went through with this plan. And this build took about, well, basically we and Modkiller first spent about 2 weeks or so building it on his creative server that he was hosting at the time. And of course, it was only me, Modcure, and Ninjago who were really on there, and though it was mostly me and Modcure who were doing the build. But I also said in the previous about the previous base that Modcure and Ninjago were beginning to kind of part ways, and they just weren't getting along very well. And that was also unfortunately evident during this build, as there were moments when Ninjago had an idea to contribute to the build, but Modcure didn't agree with it, and he just vehemently just tried to push Ninjago away, and even and this was even brought to the admins a few times, but for the most part they just urged us to resolve the issue on our own, which actually I'm kind of grateful for that, as I'd say I would prefer that outcome over like them impeding on our ability to play just because we were fighting with each other. And of course, to that I'm grateful. And to do this build, I would have, of course, you could see that we used a lot of quartz in this build, because I think this was also before. I think we would have built this in either 1.10 or 1.11. And no, I think the 1.11 was out. But of course, this was one update prior to 1.12, or as it's often referred to, the World of Color update. And of course, we just had to work with what we had at the time. And how we obtained the quartz was, of course, through the shops. Of course, Autcraft does. Of course, about 2 videos ago, I think I talked about of course, how the shops worked, and basically that's essentially how we bought the nether quartz. And of course, I also would have fortuned it. I would have put the ore, and of course, when you buy it from the shop, you can only get the ore. So what we did was I just put the ore in a giant cube, and then I just would mine it out with Fortune 3. And later on, I resorted to just smelting it in the furnaces, but for the most part, I tried to use the fortune method just to get the most quartz out of it. As smelting it in the furnace, you only get 1 quartz per ore, where Fortune 3 you could probably get up to 3 or 4 of them per ore. And the stone bricks I would have got from actually it was one of the first things we built out here before we started building the structure of the base. Because we had a platform that would have been somewhere out in this area, and we basically had a AFK cobblestone generator, or it was really just an AFK stone generator, and I would use it with Silk Touch pickaxes, and of course Silk Touch Efficiency 5 diamond pickaxes. Though at the time, I don't recall that it would have broken it would have been against the AFKing rule, because I was technically still at my computer while doing this, and eventually I would break the pickaxe and have to replace it. And I think I had diamond rank at that time, so I was able to, if the pickaxe was about to break, I could just slash repair it. And the other materials, we would have either used the shops or the resource world, though I think most of the time we used the shops. And also at the time this was first built, I think that giant melon and pumpkin farm was still in use, but later on in this build I would have switched over to the triple vindicator farm that I talked about 2 videos ago. And as you can see, this build has undergone some changes since the last time it was since the last time it was in my videos. And so far it's just been kind of left in the hands of Ninjago, and as you can see, he's done quite a lot of things to kind of revamp the build, kind of improve the build. And Modcure, I don't think it was really too much of a fan of this kind of construction here with the aquarium, but I actually kind of like what he did. I think it's kind of I'd say it's a kind of a neat concept. Modcure didn't like this elevator too much that we had in the center, but it was actually me who suggested the idea, and I'd say also is another neat addition to the build. Yeah, I definitely say Nin did a great job with this part. And as for the amount of time it took to build this base on Autcraft, I'd say like the main structure would have taken, which is kind of this whole part in the middle that goes up to that part. That would have taken roughly about a month or 2, and over a span of several more months, I think I added these rooms here. Of course, because one of them because I really wanted to add storage and auto smelting to this base, and that was kind of the best way I came up with to do that, because we never actually had redstone in mind with this build, because we wanted to get away from the problems that the base this build replaced caused on the server. And of course I would have built those, and Ninjago kind of did this recently, and Ninjago also made some changes to the top part of the base, which I personally kind of like quite a lot. This lower part of the base never really served very much of a purpose other than looking cool, but the very bottom of this part here, I actually added, of course I added a beacon here, and just to kind of add some kind of flair to the base, I added in this kind of build, which actually makes the beacon cycle between different colors, or at least it did. I don't know if something changed, but it doesn't seem to be working now. And of course, most of the time we have to have that shut off because the rule with you can't have redstone clocks running all the time. But it was still a cool addition to the base occasionally. In this area, we never really did much with. And this area, we meant to make farms in, but we, of course, yet again, we never did very much with it, although I could see that Ninjago tried to put some animals in here, and I think at one point he tried to do a farm here, but that was never finished. And apart from, of course, the aquariums above this level, this particular part of the base is mostly unchanged from last video I made about this. And I may have to ask for the staff's input on this, but this particular storage room technically does violate the hopper limit, and I think it probably has probably at least 300 hoppers. And one idea I have kicking around is going back to a shulker-based system that may not be auto-sorting, but at least gives you the ability to store a lot of items in a relatively small space and at least have them somewhat organized. And of course, this area on the other end was auto smelting, but I might possibly have a design that has less than 50 hoppers in it that still works. And this was just this is stuff I never ended up sorting, but it's just a bunch of random items. And then Ninjago would have added this here, but this is like an Enderman farm. And this also would have replaced the Enderman farm that I made, or at least that I made a video about, I think, 3 videos ago or so in the series. This level didn't really serve much of a purpose either, although Nin had built this, which was just basically kind of like a small concrete maker, and that would just kind of put concrete over here, although it's not used very much. And this level wasn't really used much either, but just kind of serves as a staircase to get up to the next level of the build. Well, this room we really did quite a bit with, as you can see. And I don't quite remember what Nin had in mind with this particular edition, but in my opinion, I'd say that's rather out of place. But I mean, it's up to him what he wants to do at this point. But I might remove it, or possibly I might talk to him soon. Although these map arts here are also another creation of ours. I think we would have used the map art world for these, and we just kind of made these maps that we kind of placed around the area. And this is just kind of mostly walkways. And I even also added these, which are meant to be kind of like an elytra launcher, where you press this, you'd go in the cobweb, and then if you could use the rockets to launch yourself out from there, and then you could go flying around this area. And of course, this level was the kind of the highlight of the build. And I would actually say I really do like what Ninjago did here with this area. Because is it like when me and Modular first did this area, we didn't really have that much of a plan for it, and it was just more or less just flat grass with not much else here. But I had to say I quite like what Nin built here. And it really brings a lot of life to the base. And this area just mostly served as a way to basically go up into the tower. And we had also placed these signs, which are really just a lot of quotes by Autism Father. And I'll pause the video so you can get a chance to read them. And this is just kind of another staircase and more ladders to continue climbing up the tower. And of course, we also continued the design the staircase from below, although fortunately now the water elevators are kind of blocking it. But I didn't end up actually going up to this level that much, but this is basically the very top of the tower in the middle, and actually the highest point in the entire build. And in fact, we're actually up at build limit now. And of course, there's the whole view looking down at the rest of the build. And we also had a bit of an idea that was sort of a carryover from the Four Corners, where we'd each have our own little like areas to kind of personalize to our liking. And well, I'd like to find mine if I can. Anyway, here's my area over here. And as you can see, I just kind of did my best to kind of make it redstone themed, but I guess at the time I just wasn't really that great with building, or I mean, like, this is still great, but just kind of in comparison to what's some of my builds on Autcraft Obsidian, this isn't really that special. Of course, at the top we also had this walkway which went around the entire top of the wall and through each of the towers. And this over here would have been Mod Killer's area, but he didn't end up doing much with it. Although Nin's area has to be the most impressive of all of this. And as you can see, he was really big into head collecting, and still is to this day. In fact, me and Ninjago actually toured this probably about a year back or so, and possibly I could look over the previous video to see what all has changed in that time. And I never really knew about this area. This is kind of interesting. Yeah, and this is basically Ninjago's thing. Like, you just collect heads and banners and display them all in whatever build where we happen to be inhabiting at the time. And I do kind of think it's pretty cool. And also another thing that happened here is Sadie had actually hosted a few of her paper hunt events here. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to. Of course, most of them took place when I was on ACO, but I'm sure it would have been interesting. And possibly next time Sadie is on, I might give input if we could do another one over here, and possibly even give me a chance to do a video about it even. And as I'm kind of at the end of describing this particular base, I have to say I personally really enjoyed this build. It was a chance for me to kind of try something new and kind of make my mark on Autcraft in a kind of a way other than what's the biggest redstone farm or auto sorter that I could build. And I have to say this really turned out great. And in fact, Modkiller is planning on building another base, but this time just me and him are going to be on it. Like, Nin isn't, but just I have to kind of say even today, Modkiller has trust issues with Ninjago, but at least their relationship is improving now. But at least just for that reason alone, Modkiller just wants me and him to be on the build and not any other players unless he personally knows them very well. Yeah, this build is just amazing. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Remember to rate, comment, like, and subscribe, and stay tuned for my next episodes of this series and also the other videos I have to come. Bye for now.